Hello everyone, in this video I wanted to talk about the differences between the various options we have for inputting audio into the Sony FX3. Now we've got two XLR inputs on the audio handle, we've got a 3.5mm input on the audio handle, all controllable. If we remove the handle, we've got the ability to use a 3.5mm input on the side of the camera, and we also can send in audio using the Mi-Shoe, either by using say a microphone on there, or like I do by using a solely wireless system. So what I thought would be a really good test would be to send in a signal and compare them. Now I can't really record each of them just by me talking because there could be differences in my volume or the tone or the room tone or outside factors that may skew the results. So what I'm going to do is I've put together a short audio sample on my Mac. And on there I've got a voiceover sample which was kindly sent to me by Ricky over at Big Fish Media. They're a voiceover recording studio here in the UK. They've got a whole load of fantastic voiceover artists on their books. So if you're looking for a voiceover, give them a look. I'll put the link down in the description. But as well as having the voiceover, I'm also going to put some music onto this short clip. And the benefit of having music is it allows you to more easily hear, say, the bass notes and any trebles in the sound than you can when you're listening to a voice. So I'll go ahead and get started now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use my wireless transmitter to wireless receiver from the MacBook. So we'll have a sustained audio level for all of the tests. The only thing that's going to change is the cable that connects that to the camera. And then for each input, I'm also going to adjust the levels on the camera to make the peaking levels match. So let's go ahead and get started and we'll see how these compare. Okay, so here in the Mac, I've got all of the audio samples recorded by the camera and I've separated them out into parts so that it's easier for me to compare the results and show you the differences that each input has made in terms of the sound quality. So to begin with, I'll play you the original source that I used so that you have an understanding of what it is that's being played out to the camera. So here's the audio recording of the voiceover.
2022 marks another milestone year when we applaud the commitment and dedication of some of our long-serving team members.
And followed by that is a piece of music that I've got from Artlist. Now this is a good track, I think, because it contains some really identifiable kind of bass frequencies as well as higher end frequencies. So it'll be good for comparing the recorded audio to the original. So for the audio track, I've disabled the right channel in stereo and made the left channel mono so that it compares exactly with what you'll hear that's been recorded by the camera. So to begin with, let's have a listen to the recording from the XLR input on the audio handle. I'll play the original first.
2022 marks another milestone year when we applaud the commitment and dedication of some of our long-serving team members.
And now the recording.
2022 marks another milestone year when we applaud the commitment and dedication of some of our long-serving team members.
Oh, to me that sounds very good. It sounds very accurate. So let's have a listen to the music. I think they sound very similar. I think the XLR input's done a really good job. It's maintained the bass frequencies, the treble sounds clear. I think that's done a really good job. Okay, so let's move on to the 3.5mm input on the audio handle. Again, I'll play the original first, followed by the recording.
When we applaud the commitment and dedication of some of our long-serving team members. When we applaud the commitment and dedication of some of our long-serving team members.
Okay, so that sounds a little bit less bassy, maybe more trebly. Let's just compare again.
When we applaud the commitment and dedication of some of our long-serving team members. When we applaud the commitment and dedication of some of our long-serving team members.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like it's lost a little bit of bass. Let's just compare the music. I'll just use the latter part of the music where it contains all of the bass sounds as well. Yeah, that one definitely sounds like it's lost the bass quite a lot there. I'd say that the 3.5mm input on the audio handle is a little bit more, I guess it's a little bit more tinny. Hasn't retained the full audio quality there. Okay, so let's move on to the 3.5mm input on the camera. Again, we'll start with the latter part of the voiceover here.
When we applaud the commitment and dedication of some of our long-serving team members.
That sounds very similar to the 3.5mm on the handle. Let's just compare that.
Applaud the commitment and dedication of some of our long-serving team members. When we applaud the commitment and dedication of...
Yeah, again, that sounds very similar. It seems to have lost the bass frequencies there. Let's just compare that to the XLR input.
Commitment and dedication of some of our long-serving team members. Commitment and dedication of some of our long-serving team members.
Yeah, again, it's definitely lost some of the lower end frequencies there, and we'll just listen to the music. Yeah, hopefully you can tell the difference there. Again, this will compare the XLR input on the audio handle to the 3.5mm input on the camera. So let's have a listen to the wireless receiver connected to the MI shoe using analog. Let's start with the voiceover again.
When we applaud the commitment and dedication of some of our long-serving team members.
And compare that to the XLR input.
Applaud the commitment and dedication of some of our long-serving team members. Commitment and dedication of some of our long-serving team members. When we applaud the commitment and dedication of some of our long-serving team members. When we applaud the...
Again, it sounds very similar to the 3.5mm inputs. Let's just check the music. This is the original. So make note of the bass in this original part. So right at the beginning there, you can hear the bass playing and how deep that sounds. And then through the analog setting, and then through the MI shoe with the analog setting. Huge difference there. Again, like the 3.5mm inputs, it just seems to have lost that bass. Whereas the XLR input has retained it. And finally, let's move on to the wireless receiver connected to the MI shoe, but this time set to digital. Again, I'll start with the voiceover.
We applaud the commitment and dedication of some of our long-serving team members.
And compare that to the original.
When we applaud the commitment and dedication of some of our long-serving team members.
Again, that sounds very similar. Let's move on to the music where we'll be able to tell a bit more. So this is the original. and this is the MI shoe. So this one seems to have retained even more bass. In fact, it may sound a little bit more bassy than the original. Let's just test that. No, I think that's good. I think that's done a really good job. I'll just compare that to the XLR input on the audio handle. Yeah, I'd put that as the same result, or a very similar result to the XLR input. Maybe he has a tiny little bit more bass for some reason, but it's done a really good job. Certainly the wireless receiver set to digital in the MI shoe and the XLR input on the audio handle give the best results with both 3.5mm input options and the MI shoe set to analog. Okay, so I'll do a quick playthrough from that point using the original followed by what I feel are the two better ones and then the 3.5mm inputs. Yeah, both of those sound very similar to the original. And now the 3.5mm audio handle. And you can hear straight away that's lost the bass frequencies there. Sounds a bit more tinny. And the 3.5mm on the camera. I couldn't call it between those two. They sound very similar. And the adapter set to analog. Yeah, they definitely all three sound very similar. So I think I'd give that to both the XLR input and the wireless receiver set to digital. They both sound really good. So the next thing worth checking is the noise floor of all of these options. So this is the recording at the level that you've just heard the music played back. So this will be very quiet. So if you want to put headphones on and turn it up, you can. But in a moment, I'll also play it back again, but boosted. So give this a listen first. I'll zoom in a little bit on here so that you can see which is which, and then we'll play it. So if you listen to that with your headphones turned up, you'll hear that it progressively got worse, but the quietest by far was the MI shoe set to digital. In order to help you hear that a bit easier, these next 5 are the same clips, but boosted by 20 decibels. And so let's go ahead and listen to those. We'll start with the XLR input on the audio handle. So you can hear we've got a little bit of noise there, but again, this is boosted, and I think that's probably a good benchmark. So let's compare the 3.5mm input on the audio handle. So you can hear that's more audible than the XLR. And with the 3.5mm input on the camera. That sounds worse to me. It sounds like there's some rumbling. Almost sounds like wind noise, although obviously it's not because I'm indoors. But listening to the 3.5mm input on the camera body, that sounds like the worst option so far. Next we'll move on to the receiver plugged into the MI shoe, and this is when it was set to analog. So that's a lot louder. It's definitely louder than the other inputs, although it doesn't have that sort of low frequency rumbling that the 3.5mm input on the camera had. And finally, we'll listen to the wireless receiver connected to the MI shoe but set to digital. As you can hear, that's pretty silent. Even with it boosted by 20 dB, you can tell that that's way better than the rest. So in summary, certainly the receiver plugged into the MI shoe set to digital is by far the best in terms of noise floor. Pretty silent, even boosted. The XLR input on the audio handle is the best of the rest by far. And then the 3.5mm inputs are both quite fairly noisy, with the camera one being the worst. And certainly using the MI shoe set to analog is really bad, and I think you'd possibly hear that quite loudly in a recording. So that was quite interesting. Certainly the XLR input on the audio handle should be the first choice in terms of audio quality. It's also good for managing the noise floor. I would definitely use the wireless receiver set to digital next, given the choice. So those two I think are safe choices. But personally, I think I'd err away from the 3.5mm inputs or the MI shoe set to analog unless I really had to use those. There's going to be times when it doesn't matter so much, and obviously it comes down to context. But if you really need to maintain good audio consistency with what's being recorded, I'm definitely going to be choosing between the audio input on the handle or my wireless receiver set to digital. So there we go. I hope that was useful. If you have any questions, then please just leave comments below. Maybe I've missed something. I'm by no means an expert on sound. So yeah, let me know your thoughts. If you found it useful, then fantastic. If I've missed something and you can share some of your knowledge with me, then please do so. And I look forward to seeing them. And I think that's it. So I'll see you in the next one.